The following podcast is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Connect, Australia's newest choice for event management and brand development specialising in pro wrestling.
And now, the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. Watch global. Support local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The Moose.
B plus.
Check it out! Here we go! You wanna mess with us? Cause we're standing on the ground.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in the B Plus land. It is me, it is I, the one they call Mr Myster1ous, and welcome to the Impact Zone. We have a good edition of Impact Wrestling to cover for you guys. A lot of interesting events to try and analyze this week. It's going to be a nice in-depth discussion about this week's episode of Impact Wrestling. Just this episode of Impact Wrestling. For the past, I think few Impact Zones I've had to cover. It's been Impact Plus special or a pay-per-view as well. So all of that's changed, and we just get back to we're keeping things simple this week. And it's a good thing as well, because I just finished a podcast with Greg Unchained about Survivor. I never thought I'd be talking about Survivor on a wrestling podcast or talking about Survivor at all on any podcast, but here I am. I just finished that. That was actually entertaining. You guys should have a listen to that. And also my All the Rest podcast that I did just the other day as well. A lot of interesting things that have come out this week, so if you want to suss out exactly what's going on, just click the link and I'll explain everything and all the rest. But for right now, how about we cover the latest Impact Wrestling? We're still in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. We're still at I believe it's the Sinclair College University still. I think this is like the last week or one more week of tapings after this. So we're still chugging along with that, which is totally fine by me, because Impact seem to do a lot of great work in Canada. I just don't know what it is about that place, but they seem to be very receptive there. So we'll start out. We have a big opening match as we usually do, but we're kicking things into another high gear with the X Division Championship on the line. Jake Crist, technically second timeline-wise, but first because this is a taping. It gets confusing, but whatever you want to call it, Jake Crist is defending his X Division Championship against Aiden Prince. Of course, Aiden Prince won a big fatal six-way number one contenders match last week, defeating the likes of Rohit Raju, Cody Deaner, Petey Williams. He faced off against Chuck Mumbo, I believe is the guy's name. Whole bunch of high flyers, and ultimately he came out on top with a nice little brainbuster 450 combination. But how did he do stacking up against Jake Crist? Now, Jake Crist, interestingly enough, so he won the title against Rich Swann with the help of his OVE comrades, but he came out all on his lonesome, completely confident in his abilities. He's getting very, very confident in himself. He's getting a nice little ego boost now that he's the golden draw, quote unquote, and he'll be demonstrating that throughout this episode. But in terms of the matchup, it was pretty entertaining. It was a lot of super kicks between both men, a lot of like your standard ones, your spinning ones. Jay Crist does a really great spinning super kick. He, in terms of like combination super kicks, is I feel like the best in Impact. I think that distinction can go to him because he's the most well-versed in them. But yeah, it was a lot of everyone was flying around. One thing I didn't like though, so Aiden Prince's finisher is the 450 splash. He went for it about 5 times throughout this match. So after the third try, he actually got it. After about 3, then the fourth one he got it. And he didn't win with that 450, so he went up again to do another 450, and that's when he got blindsided by Jake Crist, who turned it into a cutter to pick up the win and retain his title. But yeah, I didn't like the setup. When you have to rely on a move that's a setup move and it's not as natural, that can take you out of a match. Like take Roman Reigns as an example. Like so. his Superman punch can be is a setup move unless it's like out of the blue. His spear is a setup move in the corner, like stuff like that you want, especially someone like it's like Aiden Prince, I should say, if he's so well versed, to be able to have a bit of a better range, and he's fighting for the title, so he needs to pull out a little bit more extra to pick up the win. But obviously, no, Jake Chris retains the title, right? And again, so Aiden did his brainbuster 450 splash for a near fall, went back up one more time, but yeah, got hit with the cutter for the win. So we started off pretty strong here. I did actually enjoy this match. There was like a couple reverse hurricanranas. There's like everyone's going every which way, but it was pretty standard affair for Impact Wrestling. The next thing we had, so backstage, Conan is talking to Daga and Ortiz, saying that they should be able to get along. Ortiz is still a little bit, I don't know about this guy, but he's reluctantly agreeing to tag with Daga to face off against the North for the tag team championships. This will be the main event of this episode, which I am very happy with. I am very happy with the North that they are being taken seriously. Finally, they've been the main event for a good few weeks now since winning the titles. No complaints from me. They are clearly the biggest aspect of the biggest crowning jewel of Impact's wrestling roster. Like, regardless of being the tag division or the singles division, those guys are just great in my mind. But yeah, LAX, the makeshift LAX, seemingly on the same page for now. Another little backstage segment we had was Taya Valkyrie is furious. She came out of Impact Management's office, and you know that because on the wall there's a little sign that says Impact Management, like, good job there, Impact. Saying that she's furious that for twice in 1 week, even though this was a pre-taped episode, and then Havoc faced off against her at Unbreakable, and it's timelines with pre-tapings get confusing, but the gist is she's upset because she likes to drag out her defenses as much as she can. Only like every 30 days will she actually defend the belt. That's her goal anyways, to keep her reign going as long as she can possibly can make it. But yeah, she's furious that she has to defend it against Havoc, this vile human, and she's tried to get help from Rosemary, I think last week before again. Not working out for her, so she has to do it on her own, see what happens. Now, we have our next match. It is Ace Austin going up against Eddie Edwards. Okay. Where to unpack this one, right? In terms of the match, so Ace Austin, very, very capable wrestler. This was a bit of a squash. Eddie Edwards is not in a right mindset, but when is he at this point? The main motivation for him is not that, unfortunately, not the thing that I was hoping, that he's become unraveled because he faced off against Killer Cross. Like, that seems to be tucked under the rug. Like, Killer Cross is still on the Impact roster, but he hasn't been seen since Slammiversary. We're undoing everything. We're undoing all this progress, right? And this whole thing is just fueled by Eddie Edwards being jealous of Alicia talking to Ace. So Ace, I didn't watch that episode, but it looked like in the promo, it looked like he was trying to surprise it, like trying to keep her engaged with a bit of magic and what looked like the Lonely Island equivalent of Dick in a Box. That looked a bit untowards. But yeah, that's the motivation here, the relationship. And the relationship between Eddie and Alicia has been so played out so many times now. I'm wondering why they're even together. I keep saying it every time. They should just split up. And now they're teasing again that they should just split up. And they better commit to this, because if we're going to commit to this whole Jerry Springer shit, because even in the match, the fans were chanting Jerry when these two were arguing, then Eddie needs to separate from Alicia in storyline. They just need to get away from each other, and you need to make sure that Eddie goes mental. There's nothing more simple than that. You just need to make him get crazy. That's the only direction that you can go with here. And the way they're going about it, like they've delayed it. it was so natural after Slammiversary. They could have had this go in a really nice, like, psychotic, psychological way, and they've completely botched it. And they're making it far worse. So, like, in terms of the match, though, right? Ace Austin, he's feeding Eddie Edwards in his ego and everything else. He didn't get a chance to do anything in this match. Like, he managed to do his finger cut with his laminated ace card. That was about it, right? Because Eddie was completely on him the entire time, right? Like, he got a few hits in, but you know what? Like, you had Eddie Edwards, his suicide dive and everything else, and Eddie Edwards, he gets up, he slams Austin down onto the mat, stomach first, follows it up with a power slam. Austin's trying to play mind games by saying, what would Alicia think? But he's like, oh, hell no. Boston knee party, and he should go for the pin, but then he starts beating up Austin with rights and lefts way too much. The referee calls for a disqualification. You win it by disqualification, Ace Austin. After the match, as I kind of alluded to, Alicia comes out and tells Eddie to stop what he's doing. She goes to check in on Austin, doesn't leave the ring with her husband, right? Eddie walks away very angry that his wife wasn't by his side. Now, this is stupid because the commentary, I don't know if this was a miscommunication between what the wrestlers were doing and what the commentary were doing, but Eddie was saying, like, is there something going on here? Right? And Alicia's saying, no, what is your issue? What is your problem? What is your issue? She kept repeating that, but she's saying, no, there's nothing going on here. And commentary are like, they said, Eddie asked for her a question and she didn't give an answer. Like, no, she clearly said, no, there's nothing going on here. But have some consistency in your product. Like Don Callis, like, she was screaming it at the top of her lungs. No, there's nothing on here. I guess we'll never know what's inside her head. She was saying no. If you want us to buy into this, like, then don't have them have that Jerry Springer spat in the ring. Completely stupid. Don't know what's happening here. I hope it stops. I hope they fix it because they have botched Eddie having some kind of momentum coming off Slammiversary. They completely botched it. I'm sad to say. But you know what, Impact, let's see if you can redeem yourself in the second half.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OUTBREAKNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OUTBREAKNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout.
Coming back from the break, guys, we had a video package from Tessa Blanchard and Sami Callihan's number one contenders match for the Impact World title from Unbreakable. their big stare down where she's getting very upset. So this is a post-match interview with Tessa Blanchard where she's livid and she's crying and she's getting emotional that she lost the match to get to Sammy, but she's not done with him. So she's saying how he couldn't win the match without Jay Christ, and she shouldn't have expected any less from someone as disgusting as Sami Callihan. This isn't over. So I love this match. I love this match. I love this promo because it was very raw and guttural, and Tessa came off looking so great from this. Like, it was about like women's empowerment. It was about just her as a fighter, just nearly getting there and just missing out at that last opportunity. I think I mentioned last week, like, I'm not quite sure where they're going to go with this, how long they're going to go with this Sami Callihan Tessa Blanchard feud, or if it's going to lead to Tessa maybe down the line now fighting for the world title. I don't know if it's going to happen anymore. I mean, if Sami wins it, and then they face off again, they could reignite the feud, or it's a triple threat, or it might be for the vacant belt, which is another possibility. There's a few ways they can go about it, but I'm very unclear. Like, they clearly have all the confidence in the world in the undeniable Tessa Blanchard, as they should. But in terms of getting a better understanding of what's going to happen, I couldn't tell you off this promo. After the break, we see Falabar. He's just enjoying some salad. He's just at the cafeteria there. He's just having a good time. And then Moose comes out and just makes fun of him for losing weight. Okay. Moose says that Impact Management might not need Falabar anymore if he keeps losing weight. So he should get... Then he proceeds to call him a fat boy. So he's making fun of him for losing weight and then calling him a fat boy because he's still heavy? It seems so stupid. It is. Both men start brawling, and they keep brawling throughout catering. Moose gets the upper hand. He shoves a cake in Falabar's mouth, calls him a fat boy, and leaves. Like, why? I don't understand this. Like, next week we're going to get a match between Falabar and Moose, a proper match this time. But these are your two big men. These are your two like big boys on the roster, and you need to push one of them. I'd prefer they push both at this point, but they're not pulling the trigger on either right now. And I want to get invested in Moose as this dastardly heel, but every single time they make him seem like a fool, and I can't keep committing to this. I can't keep committing to Moose making an ass of himself, like seemingly having some kind of momentum, and then falling flat on his face, right? And it's kind of hard to say who's going to come out the better person from this, because I want Falabar to succeed. Like, he's been taking a lot of hits from Sami Callihan OVE and like his singles feuds and everything else. I want him to win, but then that would mean Moose would lose. And it's a mess. Why can't they just... They need more big guys. If that's they're your prime candidates for contenders for the world title if Brian Cage is okay to keep going in the ring, right? Because we're kind of... the world title picture is pretty much non-existent at this point. Like, yes, Sami Callihan is the next contender, but I mean, Brian Cage has had one defense against Elgin, and then had a street fight where he's just invalidated that storyline. It's very confusing. It's absolutely confusing here. Impact have... I enjoyed this episode of Impact overall, but man, there's a lot of things here that do not track in my mind. But we'll try and see if they can recover it throughout the episode. So we head back to the ring. This is a match with Alexia Nicole, who is another Canada wrestler. She's facing off against Madison Rayne. And on commentary, you have the Blue Flame, Kira Hogan, who has re-signed with the company, so she's not going anywhere anytime soon. And match begins. Rayne's just pushing Nicole into the corner. She's just beating her up at this point. And Kira Hogan is saying that, she taught Madison all this stuff, that she's above like all this aggression and being petty anymore, and like like clearly that's not the case. And commentary are just trying to, every time Josh Matthews is trying to poke holes in Kira Hogan's logic, like Don Callis will take every opportunity to just say like, he's a nerd, he doesn't have a wife, his wife is wrestling in the ring right now, but he doesn't talk to girls or anything else. Like, why do you want to know what girls think about you, creep? Like, they don't know what they're doing. The commentary don't know what they're doing with that dynamic between Don Callis and Josh Matthews. It works well. Usually Josh Matthews can work with how much of a prick Don Callis can be. It didn't sit well with me, right? Nicole got a few licks in. She did Rain put Nicole in a submission, but she was able to break free from that. Eventually, Rain pulls off the cross Rain. She did a ripcord cutter, then a cross Rain for the 3 count. After the match, Hogan goes into the ring and tries to congratulate Madison Rain, and then she ends up joining in and attacking Nicole. They start bickering about what the best way to inflict punishment is on this defenseless woman. Out comes Jordynne Grace to save the day, and we'll probably see maybe a tag match in the future, like on maybe the last taping, Jordynne Grace and Alexia Nicole versus Madison Rain and Kira Hogan. I feel like that's going to happen at this point. Next segment we had. Now, this one actually made me burst out laughing because I did not expect it at all. So we're back at the treehouse of the Rascals, right? They're joking around. They're a bit bummed, right? They're a bit bummed because they lost their tag team title opportunity last week, and they lost their chance to face for the X Division Championship. They're a little bit bummed. They're a little bit out of sorts, and they're talking about a mysterious him, right? A mysterious him, and saying how they caught him in the hallway, and that his farts smell like a buzz, and his armpit hair smells like some oil and everything else. And you're wondering, like, who exactly are they talking about, right? And then all of a sudden, in through the crowd, into the cop house, materializing like an angel, is Rob Van Dam. I was pissing myself laughing because I did not see this coming at all. It's one of those things like, oh yeah, Rob Van Dam is a huge like pothead, and so are the Rascals. Clearly, they have to be on the clubhouse in the treehouse at some point, and then they just do it. And I love the. Not only did they do the angel music and he materializes, but the Rascals have been they set up the joke where it's like, I hear that he's just this great guy. I hear his farts smell like rainbows and everything else. And Rob Van Dam just materializes and he just says, it's all true. That was the first legitimate laugh I had through this entire episode. And I'm sorry, I know I am, in terms of how they're using Rob Van Dam, I've been very critical, and I'm not changing my mind about that. They really need to rethink their strategy with him, bringing him back, facing off against the younger roster, and him saying that, oh, everyone's stealing my moves. Like, even in the X Division Championship match, the commentary were trying to say, like, oh, that looks like an RVD move. They're trying to play still that everyone is copying RVD, even though he's the face. It's stupid. But this was like, despite all that, I was falling out of my chair because it was just one of those things like, yes, they've listened to the fans, and the Rascals, they freak out that RVD is actually in the treehouse, right? And they're talking about how he uses marijuana, right? And he says it's all true. Each one of them tries to do the RVD, the thumbs, the Rob Van Dam poses, and then they just start fighting amongst each other. And RVD's just like, what the hell are you guys doing? This stuff's meant to calm you down. And I was like, nope. Hey, that's a ladder. What are you doing? No. And we find out that the Rascals are going to be facing off against RVD, Rich Swann, and Willie Mack next week. Very confusing setup. I have no idea what they were going for, but nevertheless, the result was the same. RVD finally entered the treehouse, and it was as bonkers and as hilarious as I thought it would be. So, Impact, for surprising me, you get an A. Like that was fantastic. I wish they had kept that like positivity throughout the rest. Like I was just after that, I was buzzing, ladies and gentlemen. I was absolutely buzzing with that episode reveal. Back to the ring though. So the next match we have is the Impact Knockouts Championship match between Taya Valkyrie, accompanied by Johnny Bravo, in a neck brace, facing off against Havoc. Now, one of the things I realized, so Havoc is from Dayton, Ohio, and depending on how they go with the storyline of OVE, and if Sammy were to get the gold off Brian Cage, and if they wanted to try and make a stable of OVE getting all the gold, I was thinking like, who in the women's division could they get? And like, Havoc would be a great addition to OVE. She would fit in well with the OVE promos, with Madman. That this is just me like fantasy booking, but just me hearing her being from Ohio, like that just kind of clicked something in my mind. Just like, oh, that'd be neat. But pretty much, bell rings and Havoc just is on the hunt for Taya Valkyrie. She's like Valkyrie is just running all over the ring, trying to avoid her as much as possible. She did not want this match, and yeah, she's proving So last week, of course, she just walked out by count out. And this match is no different. Like she's constantly trying to avoid Havoc by any means necessary. Right? Havoc put Valkyrie in a submission, but Valkyrie is able to get out of it. Like it was a lot of submissions that Valkyrie just kind of weaseled her way out of. Right? Havoc managed to chokeslam Valkyrie and looked like she was about to get the 3-fall and become the new Knockouts champion when all of a sudden Su Young's music hits. And it's a big, grand entrance. I don't know if it's the same theme song. It feels like something's different there, right? It feels like something's different. All the undead brides come out, right? Even an undead flower girl, which was a nice touch. And out comes Su Young. She's still in the same attire that she usually is in, but we just watched this entire thing, and like Taya Valkyrie, like she sees this, she like without the camera looking at it, she rolls under the ring. Su Young comes in, and Havoc goes for a choke slam, but Young reverses it with her red glove mandible claw into Havoc's mouth and pulls off a few palm strikes. The winner, again, another disqualification. You'll notice this is a theme, ladies and gentlemen. So by disqualification, Havoc won. So regardless, Taya has retained her title, and she will maybe be able to hold it onto it for another 30 days before she has to put it on the line once again. Next thing we're going backstage to a sit-down interview with Melissa Santos that happened earlier in the week, where she talked about Brian Cage's health status. Now they're officially out now, saying that they are in a relationship. So they're married now, and Melissa, so they're in a park and they're having this nice sit-down interview and saying how some people suspected it, but I like to keep my work and personal life separate, which is like exactly how she has conducted herself. Very well done. Like I love that she's just so blunt. Like it made it seem real. The fact that Melissa Santos has been so professional and now she's being in this relationship story. Like this is how you write a relationship story, right? The only reason they're using it now is because Melissa Santos came out to stop Michael Elgin from essentially breaking Brian Cage's neck. Just like, and she's saying how she loves her. They haven't said that they said they're in a relationship, that they're fiance, right? But I don't know if they've said that they're husband and wife yet. Like that's happened in the past few weeks, which of course, big mazel tov to Brian Cage and to Melissa Santos. I hope you guys are happy together for the rest of your lives together. But yeah, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. But Melissa Santos, she's saying that she loves her husband. She loves his career is everything to him aside from his family, and that she didn't want to see that ruined for him, which is why she came out to try and stop Michael Elgin. And then, of course, Rhino came out. But yeah, Jimmy Jacobs is asking about a time frame for Brian Cage's return. Melissa is saying she's not sure exactly. They need to look at some more specialists before they can answer that, because his pain is fluctuating right now. Some days he can walk, some days he can't. They're saying it's in his hip back area, right? And Jacobs concludes the interview by asking if he thinks that Brian Cage will have to drop the title because of this injury, right? And again, she's saying she's not sure. So the answer is she has no idea, but says that he's worked his whole life for that title and that moment, and he'll come back soon, but we don't know when. Now, I wish I hadn't looked into this, or inadvertently looked into this, because one of the latest interviews by Chris Van Vliet was with the Machine Brian Cage, where he actually kind of said that, yeah, in storyline I'm injured right now. Like, he is actually injured. Like, that injury that he got at Rebellion, winning the title against Johnny Impact, he's still there, and he was able to defend the title against Michael Elgin and everything else, but he's had to take a real breather with a lot of matches that he's done, because he's needs to have his back looked at. So it's not as dire as they're making it. They're doing it for drama in the TV show. I'm shocked, but he's actually a little bit injured, and they need to suss out exactly what they're going to do with him. But yeah, they're just taking it slow. So real life issues have caused them to go back to the well with the champion is injured. Will he ever return before the next event? So they're buying him some time. They're not going to call him out on like 30 days to compete or anything like that. So they're not going to do that. But again, depending on how they swing it, whether they want Brian Cage to really recover, they might say, look, you have to drop the title, or because he's injured, because they're playing this injured card now, maybe if OVE comes out to help out Sammy, then he becomes the world champion. Right? That could very well happen. You don't know. Regardless, I enjoy Brian Cage as champion, but we have not seen him do anything with the belt. So unless they really, once he's back proper, they just constantly put him in title matches, I think they just need to give him to Sammy, or someone who can actually defend the belt, you know? That's my thinking anyway. Back from the break, the Dinas are at their bar, they're enjoying themselves, and all of a sudden, the Desi Hit Squad come in to ruin it. Desi Hit Squad go in on the attack, saying that they're class and the Dinas are trash. There's a fight that breaks out. Just when they go back to celebrating, Desi Hit Squad come back swinging and knock them out, and they're just saying that we are the elite, we are upper class, we are better than you, you are peasants. Every single narrative device, every single insult you could think of to call these guys rednecks and yokels and everything else they do. It's so basic. It is so basic. I don't know how long they're going to pull this. They're going to keep dragging this out for. So I thought we were going to finish this at Slammiversary, right? But now Bound for Glory is coming up in October, and I don't know if they can hold out for that long. I feel like this has to conclude before then, because man, this is just it's getting silly. It was already silly, but I don't know where else they can go from here, right? So after that little segment, you have another segment with the Dinas discussing what happened at that bar, right? And they're saying that we just try and have some fun, and you know what? You're ruining our fun. And they're not angry that they got beat up or that they invaded their bar. It's more that they ruined their fun of them drinking, which, okay. They challenged the Desi Hit Squad to a match next week, and the implication here is because there was also another promo where the Desi Hit Squad, they see the Dinas do that promo and they accept. The implication is that whoever wins will have to be the other's servant. So if the Dinas win, they will take the Desi Hit Squad to the Dina compound and show them a hard day's work, working class, yeah. And if the Desi Hit Squad win, they're going to make the Dinas their servants and make them serve tea and rice, and they're going to be their manservants at the palace, and it gets you out of it just how simple this is. Like, it should be entertaining. It should be. I'm hoping that the match itself between these guys is going to be far better than the build up, because it's been going for so long, and I just want it to be over with at this point. But you know what? Yeah, we'll see what happens. Back to the ring, we have another match already beginning. Stone Rockwell, my favorite adventurer. Like, I love this guy. Face off against Nate Matson, who is just a jobber from Canada. The match goes well for both of them until Rhino shows up. Now, this is false advertising on Impact Wrestling's part, because they said Rhino will be in action tonight. So I was expecting him to be in an actual match. Didn't happen. So what we got was Stone Rockwell versus Nate Matson, and then Rhino comes out and ruins it all, right? Again, another disqualification. So Rhino comes out, he gores Nate Matson, right? Then it looks like he might let Stone Rockwell go. And I love this. I love this guy because he's got the whole Indiana Jones thing going. He pulls out an emerald, right? He tries to bribe Rhino to not actually hurt him, and he just says, "Hungry fella." He does it in an Ace Ventura way. "You hungry fella? Alrighty then." And it didn't work. Rhino still gored him anyway, but I love that delivery. I love his smile. I hope that after these tapings that they bring back Stone Rockwell for more stuff. He's just a delight. Yes, he's a jobber, but he makes it entertaining. It's so funny. So again, another disqualification. This is like 3 in this entire episode, which is not on at all. Afterwards, Elgin comes out to talk to Rhino. So Rhino's calling out Michael Elgin. He comes out saying that he does not do what others ask him to do. A lot more smack talking. Both men start attacking each other until security comes out to hold them back. And of course, the crowd are like, let them fight, let them fight. Rhino's a promo in this, so his past couple promos for Unbreakable and on last week's taping of Impact, they were a lot better than this one, where he got to swear more. He was a lot more like angry and more of a man, like primal, right, with his delivery. But this one is just like, I came here to kick some ass. Michael Elgin, you get your ass down here. And Michael Elgin saying like, no, I'm not going to the ring there. Well, if you're not going to come in the ring, I'm going to come out there and beat you up. I'm going to kick your ass. It was so basic. And I expected more from Rhino. I did. Like, they could have, if you're going to have that result anyway, just make him stay quiet. Just don't make him say, well, if you're not going to come to the ring, I'm going to come out there to you. Just have him shut up and just do it. That would have been so far better. It's like the little things like that people forget, right? We have an Impact Plus moment of the week, which was a 4-way Monsters Ball match, which was Jeff Hardy versus Sabu versus Abyss versus Rhino, Bound for Glory 2005. Back from that moment of the week, though, yeah, the Desi Hit Squad, they were talking strategy for their match with the Dinas, right? Then we have another promo. It was a lot of promo-heavy matches. Like, you'll notice the theme here. So there's a lot of matches where there was no contest. There's a lot of promos. So really, the main match was the opener and the closer. They take a page from MLW in how they crafted this episode. But back from break, we have an OVE promo, but it's not an OVE promo initially because Jake Christ is doing it without Sami Callihan. And he was going to do it without Sami Callihan because he's the golden draw. Until Sami comes in, and then Jake Christ is like, oh, well, you're here. All right, then you do it. And, they're very clever in how they're teasing this. So we go from one parallel with the promos with the Dinas and the Desi Hit Squad to how they're doing the OVE, their back and forth, which is far more intricate and defined than the other stuff they're doing in Impact Wrestling. So it's far more clever. I'm enjoying that far more, right? So Sami Callihan comes in, puts the discussion about Tessa Blanchard, right? He says that Tommy Dreamer ruined their plan last week to get rid of Tessa. So you know what? We're going to challenge them both to a match next week. Callahan and Dave Christ, which is surprising, facing Tommy Dreamer and Tessa Blanchard, and he vows that he will beat them and he'll be the face of the company and take over everything. Everything. Right? And now, I found this funny, so that the way he set up Dave Christ, so he said he was going to pick one member of the Desi Hit Squad, and then the Desi Hit Squad, of OVE, my god, Sammy Callahan and the Desi Hit Squad, can you imagine? There'd be nothing left of it. But Sammy Callahan, he says he'll pick one member of OVE to be his tag team partner, and it was going to be Bad Man until he started making noises, being locked up in his cage, and he's like, I was going to, but because you did that, I'm not gonna. And then Bad Man just like, I love the like, they have these stupid moments, but they're still threading. And then he's just like, you know what? Fine, I'm going to pick Dave. Dave can do it. Like, oh, okay. Now, Dave Chris has been out of action for a while. And I've been wondering, like, he has been announced that he's injured, right? But he's taken a big, like, step back from the wrestling for a I can't remember the last time he was in the match. Like, I think it was like a 6-man tag, where it was like, or the 4-on-4 over years rules match, where it was like Father Bar, Tommy Dreamer, Rich Swann, and Willie Mack. I think that was the last time he was in a match on Impact Wrestling. It boggles the mind. And I looked into this, right? And Dave Christie suffered a back injury a couple years ago, and he's been wrestling on borrowed time. So he's still wrestling, but they're handling him very, very carefully, like only select appearances. So that's why it makes sense now why his brother Jake is the X Division champion. They're focusing on him as a single star rather than the Chris brothers as a tag team now, because Dave Christie can't compete at that same level that he once could, which kind of sucks. But he's not out of it. He's not gone yet. But in terms of a reliable pair of hands to be facing off against, as much as I don't like to say it, Tommy Dreamer is that, because they shove him in everything. He's a reliable guy who can carry a promo, can carry a segment, even though he's just been used far too much and it makes no sense. But nevertheless, Callahan and Dave Christ versus Tommy Dreamer and Tessa Blanchard. You would expect that Tessa will get the win here this time on her own without Tommy. That's the idea anyways. Just don't screw it up, Impact Wrestling. That's all I can say. Just please don't screw it up. Finally, the main event of the night for the Impact Tag Team Championships, the North facing off against Daga and Ortiz. And this was everything I wanted it to be, especially after 3 matches of being no contest and disqualifications. This is the match that I wanted to end the show. Our Daga, being a new member of LAX, potentially, his chemistry with Ortiz wasn't as refined as Santana, but they did a few double team moves. I was actually pretty impressed. There was a lot of arm drags, a lot of moonsaults, a lot of double stomp combinations, but overall, man, they were good together. They were very reliable. And I like the fact that they didn't win, spoilers, but it wasn't through like miscommunication or they're arguing over like, you're not Santana, you will never be Santana, some stupid shit like that. But it's just like, no, they just lost. Like they gave it their all, but they're a new tag team and the North are just beasts. Naturally, they're going to win. And they, in terms of just the entire match itself, in terms of the combinations, the North were just on fire, right? Ortiz, he did a baseball slide on Page from the outside of the ring. Ortiz, he slid back into the ring and to pin out Alexander for a near fall. Like the North worked together, slamming Page onto the mat. They did their alley-oop double team move. Page goes for the win and they retain the titles. And yeah, afterwards, Ortiz is like, you know what, respect to Daga, and I'm happy that Daga is actually getting this attention. So he was in MLW for a little bit, and they didn't really get a chance to do much with him. Like, he had the whole segment with Low Key where he got his ear ripped off, which was that happened. But Impact, this is clever by them because we don't know exactly what's going to happen with LAX, whether they will go into WWE or AEW once the contracts are up. So the idea here is, it seems like if you're making Daga a member of LAX and then Santana Ortiz leave, you still have an LAX member left in Impact Wrestling, and then they can pick another Latino wrestler to tag with him, and you have the third generation of LAX, the third iteration, or we'll call it what you will. And they can, like, because LAX is so intertwined with TNA, with Impact Wrestling, like, for good reason, because they're the most successful tag team. Like, whether you're talking about the OGs or you're talking about Santana and Ortiz, like, LAX is just so interconnected with that brand, and for them to leave, that's a big deal. So they're covering their bases. Like, maybe if they choose to stay, Santana comes back, he's fine, right? And then they can have a little like, well, who's this new guy? But if they leave and they have Daga and Conan, and then maybe they'll bring in someone else. Who they would get as another member of LAX, I don't know. There are several amazing, like, luchador wrestlers, amazing, like, Latino wrestlers out there who could fill that void, right? If you're looking at MLW, man, I'd love to see Ricky Martinez. I don't know, he'd be a good pick. Like, I think he's Puerto Rican, but you know, he'd make it work. And yeah, North, once again, defending the gold, proving that they are just a dominant tag team through sheer force of will, and just proving that they are complete badasses in every sense of the word. Loved it. But yeah, you can look forward to those matches next week. I'm very confused how they're going to go, but of course, I'm just looking forward to see how Impact recollect themselves after this bizarre entry. We're on the road to Bound for Glory, ladies and gentlemen, and I want it to be everything that Impact Wrestling needs it to be and more, so that they can keep delivering a very entertaining product. So there's a lot of misfires here for me, but there's some great things in here too. You had OVE, you have the North, you have the stuff with Brian Cage right now, like that promo was very good. Yeah, there is the good outweighs the bad right now, and that's more than you can say for a lot of promotions out there. So with that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, that was Impact Wrestling for this week. If you want to follow me on all the socials, I'm at Mr Myster1ous, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Grapple. Hit me up, have a chat about this week in Impact Wrestling. If you want to follow us here collectively at the B+, because we're an okay bunch if I do say so myself, we are at the B+ Wrestling on Twitter because the wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Remember, we have our Patreon, guys. Any amount you can donate would be greatly appreciated, so we can keep giving you all what you want, when you want, showcasing the very best of Australian wrestling and Survivor, apparently, because we did that just the other day, and keeping you up to date on all the wrestling news from around the globe. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. This has been the Impact Zone, and I'll see you later.